one of the things that I would like to point out is that the hoof capsule in minis and in regular horses is the weak link in the chain. The hoof capsule is weaker than the bones, the tendons, the ligaments, and the horse's weight, and the muscles. Everything's weaker than the hoof capsule. People think of the hoof capsule as a very hard, solid structure, but it is very plastic. It's very deformable. I have a water balloon here, which is, just as a demonstration, is like a hoof capsule. If the horse's weight is pushed down evenly in the hoof capsule tends to stay uniform. If you do this, it pushes in one direction or the other. And that's what happens to a lot of horses' feet, especially minis. Because they have such crooked legs, or they're so prone to crooked legs, especially the dwarfs, it deforms the hoof capsule in different directions than straight down. So when we think of trimming feet on a normal horse or even a mini that has very straight legs, we're just thinking, oh, it's a routine, you take off what grew and that's all you have to do. But a lot of times with the minis, and why it's so important to get their feet done every 6 weeks, is that as that hoof capsule deforms, the bone then is going into the hoof capsule crooked because the hoof capsule is crooked, which makes the problem with the joint or the bone being crooked up above even worse. It exacerbates the problem. So not only do we trim off just like you would do a normal trim where you're taking off what grew, but the farrier has to either add with acrylics or shoes to put that hoof capsule back underneath the horse to try and straighten the bone back out, which will help the problem all the way around. So, I mean, this is technically what's going on, but I just wanted to impart upon you the importance of getting the feet done, that it's not just every 6 weeks they need their feet done. And when you first get a mini, a lot of minis get neglected because they're not being used, they're not doing anything, so they don't get their feet done. So when you first get it, it could have some really crooked feet that are going to cause more problems down the road if you don't get a competent farrier and have it taken care of. But that's about all I can say, is just get them done, and hopefully that explains a little bit why more than normal.
I keep waiting for that balloon to pop.
I know, I thought about that. I was debating whether to use just Play-Doh or the balloon. I went with the balloon, and
It was very effective.
That's very, because it really puts the emphasis on how truly important it is.
Right, it is.
It's not just like trimming your nails.
And people don't realize that. Yes.
Yeah.
So other than basic handling, what can we as owners do to make your job with the minis easier?
Well, if you have them trained to pick their feet up, that helps. But doing minis is difficult, period, because they're so small, getting underneath them, and because they don't get done regularly, a lot of times, they're not very happy getting their feet done. I get...
So the most we can do is make them.
Unless it's like Martha and she lays down.
Right. And, I get bit more than anything. They
Not by ours. Not by ours.
Her little donkey will still take a shot at me. She tries. She's gotten much better than she was. But
So do you ever trim them up on a table?
I never have. I'd always be too worried they'd jump off. They're... So I just always get underneath them and do the best I can. And it's very rare, especially when I'm here doing a whole bunch of them, that I don't leave bleeding. Because as you're trying to hold that little hoof and a rasp and a knife, it's one thing when you get them between your legs and you've got your chaps on or whatever, but when you've got your hand there, it's always, the blood's flowing and it's not getting out.
They actually have those 4 minis for the farrier.
Stacy was saying something about that, because I'm trying to retire and I'm going to quit doing her minis because of that. And I'm 66 years old and
Oh, you're young.
I know, but
He's got plenty of time left.
I would think it's hard to find a good farrier though. I'm sorry, especially one that has experience with miniature.
well, the one thing you can always do is the American Farriers Association has a certification program. Because there is no licensing in this country outside of the racetracks for farriers. It's basically, yesterday I couldn't spell horseshoe and today I is one. Anybody can hang a sign up and say they're a farrier. So the AFA does have a certification program. that if your farrier has gone through the certification program, that's at least saying that they're really trying, and especially at the top level that they have, which is a certified journeyman farrier, you've had to really prove that you are competent at being a farrier. Now, whether they have any mini experience or not, you know, but it's pretty much the same whether it's a mini or a full-size horse. I mean, we deal with different things, but it's the theory's all the same.
Does it help that Martha will lay down for you?
I don't actually do Martha. Somebody else does
I'm
Martha.
sorry.
We have-
you have two.
Yeah, because we have,
She actually has 3 farriers that come in.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So,
any given day.
so anyhow, it's I do the bull. I was doing 16 of them, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the guy who does Martha has more experiences with dwarfs than I do,
Okay.
and he's also younger and smaller. So it's
I just wondered if it was advantageous to teach your minis to try to relax and to lay down. to have their
Definitely.
feet
Well,
trained.
they don't lay down except Martha because she's
Well,
just
just-
unique. So
yeah.
I wouldn't consider any mini ever laying down to get their feet trimmed.
Well,
Martha's
yeah.
different. No,
Well,
Martha's
Martha, but
right, but most of them are big enough that they're going to stand. And now that
Okay.
we're changing some things with her feet, she's not going to be laying down anymore either. But yeah, so finding someone that is willing to do a mini is really kind of a challenge and making sure. But I will also say this, is that somebody asked about manners for them. If you get in a mini that is, you know, maybe it's been completely untouched or a little bit more feral, you know, something that we do again under our vet is we'll give them a little Dromosedan and we'll get them a little sleepy and a little lazy before their feet get done. And that way it's not such a traumatic experience for them. It's not so traumatic for you or the farrier. And then hopefully you start to just kind of wean that amount that you're giving them and they can then get their feet trimmed like a normal horse. But there are ways that you can treat them to kind of minimize all that disruption that they cause.
But you need a vet to do that.
Well, you need to get the medicine from the vet, yeah, and then you
It's
need
a
to
control
ask
step.
how much, yeah.
I mean, we can't just give it to them.
Well, there's Dorm Gel
Yeah.
now, and I give, so we can dispense Dorm Gel to clients. And Dorm Gel, but it has to go under their tongue. It's not like oral and they swallow it. If they swallow it, it won't work. But it's Dorm Gel. Yeah, it's like Dormosedan that we give IV, only it's in the gel form. So, I mean, if you actually have a relationship with the vet, then, I mean, this we can dispense it, and they can understand use it at home. You just want to make sure you don't spill it on the ground, because again, you don't want any other animals coming in, like dogs or, you know, licking it up. And we'll have like underwear gloves, you know, just, we just don't want to risk anybody getting it, ingesting it themselves.
So do you shoe them always, or do you mostly trim?
Well, it's mostly trim, but you can actually either use acrylics or epoxies to build up the hoof wall because it doesn't wear off. And then actually I have a shoe right here that if you get a mini with a really crooked foot, you can glue on a shoe like this. And this shoe is basically you cut off what you don't need. So if you need an anterior or posterior or lateral or medial extension, you would take a bandsaw and a grinder and grind off what's not needed depending on what you're trying to do to that particular hoof and then glue it on.
So like corrective?
Yeah, for corrective, especially when you first get one, to get a handle on the foot, that you want to get that foot growing back straight, you can do something like this. And we also use these on regular size horses, newborn foals, because if you get a foal with a crooked limb, if you get on it right away, you can straighten it out with something like this. But these stay on for 10 days and then they're coming off on a foal, because the foot's not only growing down like a normal horse does, but it's also growing out and getting bigger, and these constrict the growth. So if I put something on like this on for a foal, I make an appointment to come back in 10 days and take it off. We might have to put it back on again, but you might take it off, let the foot get a couple of days to stretch out a little bit and then put another one back on. But you can put these on a mini for longer than 10 days if it's an adult horse, because you're not worried about the foot getting bigger. But it might really help to straighten out the foot. I've actually taken PVC pipe, heated it up with a heat gun and formed it to do something like this, and then cool it off and then glue that on the foot to
that's what I saw on Peeps. They had like red disc that they had applied to one
Yeah.
of the drawers. Okay.
I glued tongue depressors on the bottom of the back feet of a.
Whatever works, right?
To keep it, just
Yeah.
whatever works. I mean,
Yeah.
do whatever. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.